Hola amigos, and welcome back to my YouTube channel and to my garden. My name is Emma Bennet and my contemporary romances are traditionally published. I thought it might be fun to kind of share the process that I go through for people who might not know how it works when you have a manuscript which is accepted and put under contract with a publisher. This nail is really annoying me, by the way. I kind of broke it a little bit earlier and I haven't filed it down, and so I will be fiddling with it. You're just going to have to ignore that. Anyway, my publisher is called Joffy Books and they are completely amazing. They're a UK based publisher and I really love working with them. And I'm wanting to say that I'm about to have my 6th book out with them. I think it's number 6, something like that. But I think I've got like 8 under contract. Something like that. Anyway, it's a fair few books. I've worked with a couple of editors, but my recent books have all been with the same editor, and I just absolutely love working with them, and I'm very familiar with the process now. So starting right at the beginning of having an idea for a story, what I do is I let it brew for a little while, and then I make some notes, get it down, and I write out a synopsis, just kind of 1 or 2 pages. Now, this doesn't have to be as perfect as if I was sending a synopsis off to a publisher who hadn't published anything by me before, and I don't have to use particular guidelines or anything like that. It's just that I'm writing down my story idea from beginning to end, so that they can see the characters, the themes, the plot, all of that good stuff. I send that off to the commissioning editor, and fingers crossed, so far she has liked all of my ideas and I've been offered a contract. So yeah, then the contract comes through. Obviously, when you have a contract from a publishing company, even when it's one that you have worked with for a long period of time, it's really important to read it through carefully and to check that you are happy with all the conditions of that contract. I have had quite a few publishing contracts offered to me, and there have definitely been some things in them that I haven't been happy with. But usually if you get in contact and you explain the problem, as long as you're not being completely unreasonable, then the contracts can be tweaked, and I have had that done lots of times. So please don't feel that you're definitely stuck to that contract, because it might be that they are more than happy to make some amends for you. So right, so the story's been accepted, so the next thing to do is the hard bit. It's writing the book. I tend to work very independently with my writing up until the stage that I'm just sending it off to them, ready for them to do developmental edits. But if I did need some more assistance, then my editor, I know, is always willing to offer that. That's a noisy bird, isn't it? With one of my books, actually, I did get very stuck and shush, and I didn't know what was wrong, and I did get in touch with my editor and talked through it with her, and she was absolutely brilliant. That book was The Christmas Truce, which is available now on Amazon as ebook and paperback, and it's a great story, and a part of that is down to my editor being able to kind of steer me in the right direction of where that story needed to go. But what I tend to do is one draft. Sometimes I would do that during NaNoWriMo, which is great fun, although really hard work. I'll then leave it for a month or so, come back and do a 2nd draft, and then again usually leave it for a month or so, go back and do a 3rd draft. And at that point, it is ready to be sent off to my editor. So I send off my file, fingers crossed. Also, I should have said that in the contract there will be a date that is kind of the maximum time that the publishers can hold on to your manuscript without publishing it. But usually you will be told, okay, you know, this book is going to be coming out next summer or next spring or for Christmas or whatever. So you need to make sure that you know when your deadlines are. Again, that will probably be in your contract. Sometimes it's not. It really depends. It might be that it's more you having a conversation with your editor about when the book will be finished, when they're going to need it in order for them to do the next stages. But there you go. I've got a manuscript due when, like, kind of towards the end of this month. I need to get my Christmas manuscript to them, so I'm enjoying working on that actually. That's cool. But anyway, back to the point at hand, and that is, yeah, when you send them, you send off your manuscript, and then some point, probably a few months before publication, you will receive back your first load of edits, and they will be developmental edits. So those are the big picture edits. So I actually work as a freelance developmental editor on Fiverr, and I really love doing developmental edits for people. It is a lot of fun, and I think it's also a very good practice as a writer to kind of look at stories that other people produce as a whole and to see what works and what doesn't. So you get your developmental edits back and you work your way through them. Sometimes there are big things to change, sometimes it's just little kind of tweaks to a character, or occasionally if you've got quite a lot of secondary characters, then your editor might suggest that some of them are merged so that you don't have too many characters that might confuse the readers, things like that. There might be some inaccuracies or some confusion in the plot, or some things that don't add up, and so you'll kind of work your way through those. Developmental edits, actually going through them it's hard. It can be difficult because some of the things kind of run through the whole of the manuscript, so it can be tricky to make sure that you've got that whole thread. Like, for example, if your editor said, I think that it's really important that your heroine likes cream cheese on bagels. This is a big bit of her character and I want to see this shown. So then you've got to work your way through the whole of the manuscript, adding in every time she has a bagel that she's got to have the cream cheese on it, for example. You don't necessarily have to agree to everything that your editor suggests. They do know what they're doing. They are professionals, and most of the time I agree to kind of 95% of their suggestions, but there will be times when either it's a very loose suggestion, like it might be that the editor says, "Ooh, are you sure about this?" or "Ooh, make sure that you check this," and I have checked it, or that, you know, I am sure that this happened at this time, or I am sure that the sun sets at this time, or whatever it is. I'm happy with that. Or they might, "Oh, I don't know if the character would say that. Is he really angry enough to say that?" And I might think, well, yeah, like I think that he is, so I'm going to keep that in, but maybe I need to change the lead up to what he's saying so that it's completely clear that he does mean that he's saying that kind of thing. So yeah, like most of the changes you will agree to. But if there is something that you really feel strongly about, then definitely speak to your editor about it and get a conversation going. And it might be that you can reach a middle ground that you are both happy with. So yeah, then you send off the document with those changes. It's really important that that you set it up correctly. That will normally be sent to you as a Word document, and you need to have review and edit so that it tracks changes and they can see everything that you've done and the comments that have been resolved and all that kind of funky stuff. The next time that you will see your beautiful manuscript again is probably when copy edits come back. Having said that, of course, if there are still kind of issues with the developmental edits and things that are going back and forth, then you may well have another round of developmental edits. I haven't, fingers crossed, ever had that yet, but I know that it does happen. And it might also be the case that when you're working your way through the developmental edits, you realize that there's something that's missing from your story, or that isn't made enough of, or something like that, and you make quite big changes to make the story better, which is brilliant, but then your editor will need to go through it again as a developmental edit. So there could be 2 rounds of those edits, but most likely you'll be moving on to copy edits. So the copy edits are the really fiddly ones. They're things like making sure that all the speech marks are there, that all the grammar's correct. You might also still pick up on a few little bits, like if there was something like a character has been pacing the room, but all of a sudden they're sitting down and you haven't said, or something like that. That kind of thing might still be picked up at that stage, but it's generally grammar, making sure that things that need to be capitalized are stuff like that. And again, it goes back, there really shouldn't be many changes that you need to make at that stage. It's, again, going through the Word document and accepting the changes that you're happy with. And I can't imagine that there would be many that you wouldn't be happy with at that stage. The next stage that I see my book at is for the proofread stage, and that's just a final read through of it. And fingers crossed, there really shouldn't be big changes that need to be made at this point. I mean, I guess that there could be, but it is pretty late in the day, so it would be a little bit concerning if there were. So by this point, I have read through this manuscript so many times because, like I say, each load of edits that come through, after I've done them, I read through the manuscript again to check that it all makes sense and that nothing that I've changed has kind of had a detrimental effect on anything else. So, you know, I love the story, but I've probably had enough of it by the time that the final kind of read through comes along. I have to say as well that publishing nowadays, if you are with an independent publisher like I am, it does happen quite quickly compared to if you're with kind of Penguin or someone like that. I have got books which are planned at the moment for like a year in advance, but typically it'll be about 6-7 months, something like that, between me submitting the complete manuscript and actually being published. So yeah, it all goes back, you're all happy. Yeah, the actual manuscript of the book is all sorted. So probably the next thing that you will see is either the cover or the kind of blurb and back matter and things like that. So with the cover, I am sent the cover as a file via email, and what's really lovely is that I am asked my opinion on it. Now, my publisher are absolutely fantastic with my covers. There have been a couple of instances when I've suggested little tweaks which they've taken on board, kind of, you know, could you make that writing a bit smaller, or, you know, tilted a bit or something like that. But definitely, you know, nothing big, and I really love all my covers. I don't know what would happen if I replied, oh no, I hate this, I'm not happy for this cover to be on my book. Yeah, I really don't know, but thankfully, like I say, my publisher are completely brilliant and they know the market, they know what they're doing. They would not give me a bad cover. Not only does your publisher know the market, but they'll also make sure that the person who's designing your cover really knows what the story is about. When I first joined with my publisher, I actually filled out a load of questionnaires about me, about my writing and stuff like that, and about each of the stories as well, so that that could go along to the designer. And you know, they're not going to necessarily read the whole book, but they can get a really good idea of the story. They'll read the synopsis, so that they know the feel of what they're going for and who the characters are. Similarly with the blurb. Now, with previous publishers, I have actually been asked to produce the blurb myself, and then we've kind of gone back and forth working on it together. But in the case of my publishers at the moment, the blurb is written by them, and they also deal with things like the tagline. They might also change the title. I do come up with a title for my manuscripts and they're sent off with that title, but it doesn't necessarily stay the same. But again, they come to me and they ask if I'm happy, and they explain their reasoning if they are considering changing it, and they've been right so far. So I am happy to go with their suggestions. And basically at that point, I believe that is it until the book is about to come out, and it is time to do your best to market it, to help to promote it along with your publisher. So there we go. That's the whole thing. That is what happens from the point that you have an idea for a story until all the edits and everything are done and it is ready to be published by a traditional publisher, at least in my experience. If you have enjoyed this video, then please remember to boop the like button and subscribe if you're not already, because it really helps my channel out and we have a lot of fun over here. And I will catch you in my next video.